Environmental Protection Trust, right?
And area is a common A, isn't it?
Oh, look at that.
It doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter, okay.
Hope not, because we've been sending it out with a capital A.
Because it's Nept, so the A is like.
Yeah, so when we put a capital A, some persons will probably write Nept. But
Right.
it's Negril area, so the N covers it all.
Okay, great. All right, so we're gonna let. All right, good morning. So we are almost ready to go. And we are live on YouTube. We definitely want to welcome everyone here. I'm going to mute the microphones to start. All right, so good morning, and happy Friday to all of you. Let's bring down this microphone here so you can hear me better. Welcome to NEPA Connects. It is Friday, November 26th, and we thank you so much for spending your Friday morning with us. We promise you, we assure you, that this is not a waste of your time at all. And to get us started, just to warm us up, right? We might be a little cold this morning. So to get us started, we're going to play a clip for you that really kind of encapsulates and sets the tone for our discussion this morning. And so please give your attention to the monitor.
In September 2015, the United Nations made history when 193 member states unanimously adopted 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, that serve as the centerpiece of its post-2015 development agenda. The goals are: no poverty, end poverty in all its forms everywhere; zero hunger, end hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture; good health and well-being, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages; quality education, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all; gender equality, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls; clean water and sanitation, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all; affordable and clean energy, ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all; decent work and economic growth, promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all; industry, innovation and infrastructure, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization and foster innovation; reduced inequalities, reduce income inequality within and among countries; sustainable cities and communities, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable; responsible consumption and production, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns; climate action, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts by regulating emissions and promoting developments in renewable energy; life below water, Conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Life on land. Protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. Peace, justice, and strong institutions. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development. Provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Partnerships for the goals. Strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. Learn more about SDGC/A by visiting www.sdgcafrica.org. Stay connected through Twitter @SDGCAfrica and Facebook through our page, the Sustainable Development Goals Center for Africa.
Awesome. All right. So thank you so much. Well, let me see. Let's get started. In the chat, I want you to tell me 17 SDGs, 17 Sustainability Development Goals, right? And I want you to tell me in the chat if you think these goals are feasible. Yay, nay, maybe so. Let me know. We are live on YouTube, and this session, as of now, is being recorded. So if you're comfortable being recorded in this session, we invite you to stay with us. If you're uncomfortable, we encourage you to just hop over to @NEPA Jamaica on YouTube, and you can definitely catch the session from there. For those watching us on YouTube, we just want to let you know that there is going to be a 20-second delay, and we apologize for that, but you won't be missing too much of the session. All right. So just a few housekeeping matters, right? We want you to share your comments with us, your comments, your questions, your feedback, anything at all. Feel free to share those with us in the chat. We have our co-host here, and she'll be definitely monitoring from the chat section, both here on Zoom and on YouTube. So we didn't see any comments yet, so let's ask the question again. 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Are they feasible? Yes, no, maybe so? Well, today we're taking a look at SDG 15. Do you remember what the 15th SDG is? Who remembers? Drop us a comment. We have prizes, people. That's why we really want you to drop us your comments. That's why we really want you to drop us your comments. You can do it out of the goodness of your heart. We love that too. But we also have prizes. So we're looking at this 15th Sustainable Development Goal, which talks about life on land. But there's another SDG that also has a bearing on this session. If you can figure out which SDG we're targeting through a session like NEPA Connects, you could win a prize. So please let us know that too. We're definitely looking at SDG 15, life on land, but we're also looking at another one. And we want you to try and guess which one that is. So how are we going to break down SDG 15? Well, today we have as our special guests, Keisha Spencer and Davia Simpson. And Keisha is the executive director of the Negril Area Environmental Protection Trust. You might know them as Nept. And Davia Simpson is the education and outreach officer of Nept. And so, Keisha, we welcome both you and Davia to NEPA Connects. We're very happy to have you today. And our next special guest is Miss Maureen Milburn. Maureen, did I correctly pronounce that last name, or did I butcher it? Feel free to unmute and let me know. So we have, is it? Okay, great. So Maureen is joining us, and she is the project officer responsible for monitoring and evaluation with the IWECO project. The IWECO project. Have you heard of it, or have you been living under a rock? Well, let's bring you up to speed, right? So the IWECO project is an exciting multinational project. In Jamaica, we refer to it as a national sub-project, and the purpose of it in Jamaica is to assist with the conservation. So I'm going to read the full title. It's the biodiversity mainstreaming in coastal landscapes within the Negril Environmental Protection Area of Jamaica. So you can really tell it's very, very exciting. And the IWECO project, Maureen is going to tell us a lot more about it as we get underway. So if this is your first time joining us for NEPA Connects, we welcome you. If you are a returning guest, thank you for joining us yet again. We really appreciate your support. This morning, we want to get things kicked off with a question to you, Keisha and Davia. Tell us a little bit more about Nept.
Thanks, Travis. So Nept is an environmental non-governmental organization that has been around since 1994. So this year makes 27 years we have actually been in existence. And we conserve and promote the environment for present and future generations. We are the current managers of the Orange Bay Special Fishery Conservation Area. And as well, we have implemented numerous environmental projects and activities throughout the years since our establishment. We have a good relationship with our community stakeholders, including our farmers, fisher folks, and students, as we work towards protecting our environment and promoting the sustainable use of the natural resources present, so that they'll be around for the local industries that currently heavily depend on them.
All right, just to add some more to what Ms. Simpson had just said, Nept basically implements activities under 5 program areas, and these program areas are natural resource management and research, environmental education and awareness, sustainable community development, advocacy, and financial independence and sustainability. Now, we are governed by a board of directors that comprises of both government and non-government organizations, or local community groups. So government organizations such as the Forestry Department, the Jamaica
Is that the Jamaica Conservation Development Trust?
No. Sorry,
Okay.
it's a constabulary force.
Wow.
We work very closely with our marine police officers through that. The Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, Little Bay Citizens Association, Mount Airy Association, the National Water Commission, the Negril Area Schools, the Negril Fishing Cooperative Society. So there are about 30 organizations that basically comprise our board. So just going a little bit further as well, Nept was formed as, Negril basically developed from a sleepy fishing village. So as the residents became more concerned about the environmental degradation that was happening within the area, at the third annual meeting of the Negril Coral Reef Preservation Society, they decided that they needed an organization that would essentially coordinate conservation activities on land to coincide with the conservation activities that the Negril Coral Reef Preservation Society was doing in the marine environment. So Nept was formed with an immediate responsibility to lobby for the declaration of what is the Negril Environmental Protection Area for both ridge to reef kind of conservation concept. So in 1997, as we're dealing with NEPA connects, both stakeholders comprising the Nept and also other citizens within the wider Negril area, along with the Negril Coral Reef Preservation Society, we worked with NEPA during that period to have the Negril Environmental Protection Area declared. In that area, we carry out, as mentioned before by Ms. Simpson, a wide array of conservation activities.
Thank you so much. On that point, so again, just for our viewers, we are talking about SDG 15, specifically the future of the Negril Great Morass. So you're going to hear some mention made about the Negril Great Morass. Have you ever heard of Royal Palm? Not Royal Palm Estate, but this time we're talking about the Royal Palm Reserve. Have you ever heard of the Royal Palm Reserve? Beautiful, beautiful place. So we're going to be talking about the future of the Negril Great Morass, and Keisha and Davia have beautifully given us an introduction to our discussion. Keisha, I want to stay with you. Recently, you signed an agreement with the IWECO project. Can you tell us a little bit about that agreement that you now have with NEPA through IWECO?
Okay. So under that partnership agreement, we are implementing activities on the three primary subcomponents. And I'll just basically share what those are. So it's subcomponent 2.2, which is habitat or ecosystem rehabilitation, investments for conservation of internationally significant endemic and migratory species. So there are pretty much four primary activities that we are focusing on under that component, and it's what is to restore and revegetate native plant species in selected targeted sites, reestablish vegetation corridors between targeted sites to provide habitat and allow for migration of flora and fauna across wetland zones. 3, improve seed bank and seedling stock for restoration of vegetation communities, and implement removal and control measures of alien invasive species to decrease their numbers across targeted sites to enhance species population. So I'll just share with you briefly some of the activities, those activities that we've already started on that subcomponent. So in terms of restoration and revegetation, we've actually commenced collecting seeds and seedlings from specific plants, in particular the royal palms and anchovy pear, as well as the pond apple. So we currently have over 70 seedlings that we've acquired from a hotelier in Negril, that's Sharilla Inn. And we've also sown 40 seeds of the pond apple, which we have about 13 that has germinated. We have made a mongoose trap that has been trapping the Indian mongoose, which predates on the West Indian whistling duck. So to date, we've caught around 14 mongoose. In addition to that, we've also caught a cat, which also impacts the West Indian whistling duck population.
So I just want to jump in here, Keisha. So for our guests who are joining us, we just want to break down. So basically, the agreement that you have with IW Eco, in a very layman term, whatever should be in the Negril environmental protection area, whatever species, flora, fauna, you now have an agreement with IW Eco to make sure that they remain there through your conservation efforts. And whatever should not be there, as you mentioned, these invasive species, you are cleverly and creatively coming up with ways to make sure they don't remain within the Negril environmental protection area. Are we on the right track?
In a sense, but focusing
good.
primarily on the Negril Great Morass, given that the Negril EPA, it's a wider area which takes in the Negril Hills, the Fish River Hills, and also the Negril Marine Park.
Excellent, great. So that's the work that you're expected to have come out of this agreement. Maureen, you want to jump in here? Now, tell us a little bit, Maureen, about the role of IW Eco in all of this, the goals of the project, why this agreement is important. Jump in here.
Hi, good morning, everyone. All right, so the IW Eco project, which is the integrating land and integrating water, land and ecosystems management in Caribbean small island developing states. As you had said earlier, it's within the Caribbean. It's being implemented within 10 countries in the Caribbean, and Jamaica is just one of the countries. And the subnational project under that project is the biodiversity mainstreaming in coastal landscapes within the Negril environmental protection area. That's the project we're focusing on. The project objectives are, there are 4 main objectives. I'm just going to read through them really. To restore the historical hydrological and other physical processes. Number 2, enhance and re-establish native vegetation communities to provide habitat to wetland fauna. And 3, eliminate conflicts that degrade ecosystem functions. 4, implement institutional arrangements to ensure the long-term sustainability of wetland biological resources. And based on the activities that Keisha mentioned earlier under the partnership agreement that we have with Nept, you can see that they are contributing to some of the project objectives that I listed, the 4 project objectives in parts. They have been able to contribute through the revegetation, the establishment of buffer zones, vegetative buffer zones, etc. Now, there are 4 components under the IW Eco project, and Nept, the partnership agreement with Nept, is under component 2, which is the improvement of water, land, ecosystems, and biodiversity resources of the Negril Morass, taking into account climate change, sensitive ecosystems, and ecosystem services. So the partnership with Nept is assisting the project to accomplish objectives of the project in terms of biodiversity conservation and restoration of vegetation.
Yeah, that's a mouthful, Maureen. And we're so glad that the full name of the project is so proudly displayed on your pretty banner. Your banner is so nice. Your pretty banner right behind you. So that will definitely help us to remember it. If you could just type in the chat, Maureen, for our visitors here, the website where we can probably get some more information on the full project, that would be great. We'd love to see that. But as we continue though, we want to find out now, how do these activities link to SDG 15? So remember, we're talking about these SDGs, right? And we're zooming in on the 15th Sustainable Development Goal, which talks about life on land. And so Keisha and Maureen, Maureen, since we're still with you, you can just jump in. How would you say the project is contributing to SDG 15?
Okay, so SDG 15 looks at life and land. So in terms of looking at biodiversity conservation, as Keisha had mentioned, that Nept is implementing activity which looks at the control of invasive alien species, the Indian mongoose. And the Indian mongoose is a threat to the West Indian whistling duck, which is endemic to the Caribbean and found within the Negril environmental protection area. the largest population that we have is at the Negril Royal Palm Reserve, which you mentioned earlier, which is also a recreational facility that persons can go there and you can look at you can see the West Indian duck. You can also see the royal palm, which is endemic to Jamaica, like lots of individuals of the royal palm species. So in terms of, Nept, so one of it is to conserve biodiversity. So in terms of getting rid of the species that are threats, the Indian mongoose, to the West Indian whistling duck, because they attack the adults and they do consume the eggs. So that is one way in which the project is contributing to SDG 15, which is life on land biodiversity conservation. In terms of the Negril Great Morass, also in preserving the Negril Great Morass, because one of the issues that we have, one of the threats to the Negril Great Morass is the drainage of the morass. And persons would be familiar with the fires, the frequent fires that we have over the years. And that's one of the causes of it, because the drying out of the morass contributes to the fires. So one of the objectives of the project, we have one of the activities we have under the project is the re-wetting of the Negril Great Morass. So we have identified areas in consultation with stakeholders, as well as researchers. We have identified selected areas to re-wet the morass to preserve that habitat for the different species and to conserve biodiversity.
Great. Maureen, how you know the mongoose is an Indian mongoose?
That's the local name of it. In terms of the history, where the mongoose came from and how it was it arrived in Jamaica, it was imported to Jamaica. So it's a local name. It's based on historically where it came from. So that's part of the local name.
Got you. All right, great. So this is a picture, Maureen. Tell us what we're seeing here and why it's so important that we preserve this.
Royal Palm Reserve.
Yeah.
And this was actually managed by Nept for some time. I know Keisha is very much like, this is like your heartstring, very much connected to Royal Palm Reserve. It's very important because it provides a habitat for freshwater species, for wetland species. As I mentioned earlier, the West Indian whistling duck, which is commonly called the whistler, because it's a fairly quiet duck. And some of the threats, I mentioned the threat of the Indian mongoose consuming the eggs and also attacking the adults. And also recently there was a video circulated on YouTube where persons were consuming the bird, which is illegal. So there's also poaching is also a threat to the bird. And this is one of its habitats. And there are also other wetland species. You have the moorhen, other birds that are found here. There's also turtles, pond turtles, etc., that are found here as well. So it's a great habitat for species. It's very beautiful. As I said, it's a recreational facility, so persons can go there just to enjoy nature and to be at peace with the environment.
It is so beautiful, Maureen. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. So as Maureen said, Nept was instrumental in managing the Royal Palm Reserve. And that now again links us to the other SDG that we want you to tell us about. Which other SDG are we focusing on through NEPA Connects? Have you figured it out yet? There are 17 of them, and we're definitely looking at 15, life on land. But through NEPA Connects, which is a feature program of NEPA, where we shine the light on our environmental partners, we are seeking to achieve another SDG. Do you think you know which one it is? Drop it in the chat. Let us know. All right. So, Keisha, we're going to jump back to you now because, see, Maureen told us all about the IW Eco project and what they're doing to work towards SDG 15. And believe me, it's a lot. But what is your organization, Nept, doing to contribute to SDG 15?
Okay. Beginning with a current project that we have that is supported by the GES Small Grants Program. So the GES Small Grants Program, right, that's a UNEP implemented facility or funding program that facilitates conservation or communities at the local level to, conserve the natural environment and also to basically improve their livelihood activities. So we have a project entitled Conserving Natural Resources in the Negril Environmental Protection Area through Innovative Agricultural Techniques. And essentially, there are 3 expected results, and one is a climate smart agriculture demonstration site established. So what this involves is a greenhouse facility that demonstrates greenhouse production of sweet peppers, and also a hydroponics unit to basically demonstrate the use of that technique to grow vegetables. So we're starting with lettuce. In addition to, another expected result is increased awareness on sustainable management, land management within the Negril environmental protection area. So we have engaged the farmers in a variety of soil conservation techniques. So looking at how they use the A-frame to establish their contour lines for those who are farming on the slopes. And also one of the things that is being demonstrated too in the greenhouse is the use of row covers and drip irrigation system. And we'll have also water catchment, water harvesting rather system. So essentially we are demonstrating to the farmers how they can harvest and also utilize ground covers to help to retain their soil moisture, and also to basically, help in reducing their weeds, and additionally helping to conserve their soil. Another expected result is improved livelihoods for the farming community. So currently we are working with the Rural Agricultural Development Authority Small Business Development Center to engage the farmers in personal development and finance. So we're assisting them to take their farming approach as a business. So they'll take into consideration how they operate, how they track their expenses, how they do their pricing. So it can help them to be more profitable in their farming activities. We've also had some sessions in integrated pest management. So allowing them to learn that you resort to your chemical process or chemical control as a last resort. So helping them to understand, okay, how do you go into your farm, you do your scouting activities to look at what type of insect that is affecting their production, as well as understanding what control method they would need to do when they would need to spray. So understanding, concepts such as threshold. So at what particular point they would need to take into some kind of control measures. So we also expose them to chemicals that are more derivative from, let's say, plant or animal material. So that is more safe to the environment. So in and of itself, that project, as it's contributing to sustainable use of the natural resources within the area. So conserving their soil, that's directly linked to the SDG 15, because you're protecting your land and biodiversity on land. And one of the things that came out in the sessions with the farmers in terms of understanding soil fertility is having a greater appreciation of soil. So because that is tightly linked to the success of their farming operations. So if it is that they are not doing their best to conserve that resource, then they will feel that in the end in their pockets in terms of having to spend more to get more from their farming activities. And when we can conserve our soil, then there are other things in the soil that we don't really see with the naked eye that also forms an important part of that cycle of life and contributing to a wider ecosystem health and service that comes to the resource users. Additionally, we have our Orange Bay Fish Sanctuary. So even though that's getting into the marine environment, we have a program with our fisher folks where we install fish aggregating devices. So we enable them to basically allow for the reef fish to have a chance to survive per se. So those aggregating devices, they'll attract fish like the tuna. So those are more deep water fish. So we encourage them to go a little bit further to fish. With our school groups, we basically have environmental activities that we conduct with them. So we engage the schools to understand what it is that they are covering in their curriculum. So they have covered topics such as coral reefs and also wetlands. So we've been able to do presentations with them, take them on tours along the South Negril River to explain how the importance of wetlands as well as the different plant and animal species that they will find in wetlands, in particular mangroves that are, and their importance, and also the threats that are basically impacting these different resources and how they themselves, even though they are young, they can contribute in a positive way to deliver positive messages at their homes and within their wider community to support conservation activities of these resources.
So we can really confidently say then, Keisha and Davia, that you guys are definitely contributing to SDG 15, and we are happy to be on that journey with you. We see Dwight sharing in the chat that he's suggesting two other sustainable development goals. Life below water and climate action can be associated with our session here, right? And those are good suggestions. There's another one though that we're looking for, and we'll see if we can get it as we continue our discussion. So thank you so much, Keisha. We really appreciate that. Now we want to look at how persons can assist your organization. So both IWECO as well as Nept, how can persons get involved? How can persons support the activities of your respective organizations? Maureen, do you want to tell us how can we support the project, the IWECO project?
Okay, sure. All right, so one of the ways in which persons can get involved is, as you know, with the partnership agreement with Nept, because having local communities being involved, local NGOs being involved. So out of that, Nept is one of our partners, as well as we work with different stakeholder groups, different community-based groups in the area. We also work with fishers because one of the activities that we have under the project was a seagrass assessment. So we have training in that area for fishers, water sports operators, etc. And we also work with the schools in the area to sensitize them and just to educate them about the objectives of the project, as I mentioned earlier, and just to develop an appreciation and an understanding of the functions and importance of our wetlands, specifically the Negril Great Morass. We also have a project that's coming that is currently in place, which is the Green Business Initiative, where we're working with tourism-related entities in the area to develop a good environmental stewardship programs within their organization, as well as we recently completed research activity for corporate social responsibility, where persons can get involved in that way to support activities. Private sector can get involved to support activities within the project area, the Negril environmental protection area. So there are lots of ways that we can get involved. We have one of our officers is based in Negril, our technical officer based in Negril, and she does a lot of the community outreach activities. So if persons are interested in partnering with us in other ways, in terms of even with working with the farmers, working with the fishers, hoteliers, etc., then they can contact us, because we do have programs on the ground that persons can get involved in.
Let me unmute. That sounds good, Maureen, because as Keisha mentioned, it was so long ago that Negril was just a small fishing village. Is that how you referred to it, Keisha? But gone are those days, and we know that we have a lot of stakeholders with a vested interest in the development of Negril. And so we're really happy that your project can facilitate these partnerships. Keisha, how about you for Nept? How can persons contribute to your organization, support your initiatives, partner with you?
Okay. We are a small team, so we rely heavily on the support of our community members to implement our activities. So we always welcome persons to come and volunteer with us, so they can come to our offices and basically sign up on or sign up as a volunteer. In addition to that, they can reach out to us via our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We have
what are your social media handles? How can they find you on social media?
Okay, so our Twitter handle is at Nept_Negril. We have two Facebook pages. So the first one is Nept Negril, and the second is Nept Westmoreland. And on Instagram, you can find us at Nept Negril, as well as our YouTube page is also Nept Negril. So pretty much the same throughout our accounts.
That's good. That's helpful.
So continuing, persons can volunteer on a wide array of activities. We have a choral nursery program that's going on. So for persons who are certified divers, they can participate in our nursery maintenance activities and outplanting of our coral fragments. For the activities that we're implementing under the IEECO partnership agreement, we have some exciting activities as it pertains to the West Indian whistling duck conservation. So we'll need whistle watchers across the Negril environmental protection area to document, where they hear these West Indian whistling ducks, their flight paths, where they're going, where they're coming from, where they see them feeding. And also we want to our communities to be involved in our reforestation activities. So as we are, reforesting degraded areas, so putting back in our royal palms, the anchovy pears or the pond apples, we'll definitely need volunteers to come in and participate in those reforestation activities.
So can we adopt a duck? Can we say, hey, Keisha, I want that duck to be mine. I want to name that duck. Like, because recently you named 2 ducks. You named 2 West Indian whistling ducks. You remember when you named them the other day? What were those names?
That was more on Spart and Sutton, right?
Yeah.
And I think
and Joe.
Yes.
Yes. So 2 ducks are already named. You have Joe and Kamala down there. So can we adopt ducks? Can we say, hey, Keisha, I want to adopt that duck. I will pay for that duck to be fed, and I want that duck to be named XYZ. Do you currently have that adoption program?
Maybe that can be tweaked, given the West Indian whistling ducks. They are, very private birds, so you may not be able to get up close and personal per se. But yes, the feeding program is important to improving the numbers at the Royal Palm Reserve. During the rainy season, what we've observed is that they're spread right across the Negril environmental protection area in feeding in other wetland areas or seasonal wetlands. But as the time becomes drier, then they will go back to the Royal Palm Reserve. So persons can sponsor feed for the ducks. So they feed primarily on the cracked corn. We had experimented with oranges and rice, but they don't really take to those. But the cracked corn is something that they feed on, so persons can contribute to that feeding program. In addition to that, persons probably can sponsor, let's say, a boy in our sanctuary, and also they can sponsor a coral tree or a fragment. So yes, we could
sponsor a what? A boy?
Maureen boy or demarcation boy.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Great. But you see, if you come up with that adoption program, Keisha, if you do decide you're going to have a West Indian whistling duck adoption program, remember who gave you the idea, and I will send you the account number so you can send the royalties too. We have no problem sharing that. Okay, that's fine.
Yes, most definitely.
Great. So we're so happy to hear that persons can actually assist both the IEECO project and Nept in carrying out their mandates. Where can we next see you? What can we next participate with you on? Do you have any events coming up?
So for the end of this year, currently there are no events planned, but in next year, of course, February 2nd is World Wetlands Day. We will be, depending on the COVID restrictions, reaching out to our schools to engage them as we would have in previous years in drama pieces, essay competitions, poetry competitions, as well as playing games, interactive, educating them on how important our wetland ecosystems are in a very fun and exciting way. Aside from that, we will be also having activities for Earth Day and International Coastal Cleanup Day, which is in September. And in terms of staying up to date with our organization, persons can of course reach out to us on our social media pages, as well as in next year, we will be relaunching our newsletter. So we're currently in the process of revamping it, so you can look forward to getting frequent updates about our organization and the projects that we have ongoing and how you can assist.
That's great. Maureen, how about you? How can we keep in touch?
Sure. I just want to mention that the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA, is the implementing agency, the local entity that implements the IWECO project. So if persons want to contact the project staff, they can also contact us through NEPA. And you will post, we have social media pages as well, which you post at the end of this, so persons can contact us via that. We also have a WhatsApp group, IWECO Jamaica. So persons, if they want to be just updated more routinely, more frequently, then they can send us their contacts and we can add them to that group so that they can get the messages from us. We'll also be planning activities for World Wetlands Day in February. Part of what we have on board right now is to look at a mangrove cleanup and also other activities that will be planned later with our different stakeholder groups, as I mentioned, the fishers, water sports operators, and with schools as well.
Thank you so much, Maureen. Really appreciate that. But for those of us here who are listening, what if we have, what if we're from Westmoreland? What if we're from Negril and we want you to attend our school, probably give a little presentation? Can you also facilitate engagements like that?
Sure, we have, as I mentioned earlier, we have an officer who is based in Negril who is actually doing that, who has worked with quite a number of primary and high schools in the area. We actually developed a curriculum, so it's based on the topics within the primary and secondary school from grades 5 to 9. So we can give presentations on the different environmental topics in the school curriculum as well. And we have been doing that. So yes, definitely. We are available to, as I said, to meet with the water sports operators. We're working with the fishers, we're working with schools, we're working with all the tourism related entities.
Excellent. Keisha, how about for Nept? Could we also invite you to our basic or primary school or high school down there in Negril?
Yes, definitely. Schools can invite us. We will, of course, attend. We have actually done presentations to schools in the past. So yes, if you want us to present to your students, we will definitely be there and we'll make it very fun and exciting so that they will enjoy the presentation and want us to continually coming back to them.
Will you bring a duck?
I can't catch one.
Maybe not the real one, but maybe a model.
A model. Okay. But tell me, do you actually keep track of the ducks who were named Kamala and Joe? Do you keep track of them, or they're just mixed with the rest of the
Okay, well,
ducks?
as I mentioned earlier, that activity basically was done by Ann Sutton, who is a consultant that developed the conservation strategy for the West Indian whistling ducks. So at the last discussion I've had with her, there are some issues in terms of transmitting and getting location. So experimenting with appropriate devices for tracking their locations and being able to differentiate between the birds is something that we'll basically have to look more deeper into.
Right. Great. Maureen, you wanted to
Yes,
jump
I
in
just
here?
wanted to add to that, the birds, Kamala and Joe, which were named were, so that project that Dr. Ann Sutton did was part of one of the outputs for the project, which was looking at the conservation of the West Indian whistling duck, going back to SDG 15, conservation of biodiversity. And what the project involved as well was tracking the birds to find out their distribution, what habitats they're using, where they're going, because if you're going to conserve the species, you also have to conserve the habitat. So that was part of it, to say, okay, these are the areas that they're using for roosting or feeding. So therefore, these are the areas that we need to look at conserving. So the birds were named, I guess, to make them more personable, rather than calling them bird A and bird B. So trackers were placed on them for that purpose. It was for research purpose. But you do have a great idea about naming the ducks and having them as part of an adoption program. I know it's done in other countries and with other conservation programs to raise funds, and the birds are quite attractive. They're very beautiful, nice brown birds. So that is something that we could possibly look into for future sponsorship or support of the conservation of these birds.
Thank you, Maureen. And you know what I love about what you said? You said you have a great idea. So you recognize that when you do develop this West Indian whistling duck adoption program, you recognize who will be getting the royalties from that. And I really appreciate that here on NEPA Connect. We really, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. But we really appreciate that. All right. Do any of our guests have questions for our presenters? Do you have any questions regarding the work happening down there in Negril, done by IWECO, Jamaica, and Nept? Do you have any questions for us? For our presenters? Any comments, any thoughts? Please feel free to share those in the chat. So as I said, we were having a discussion on SDG 15, the future of the Negril Great Morass. And from what we've discussed with both these organizations, IWECO, managed and implemented through the National Environment and Planning Agency, and Nept, Negril Area Environmental Protection Trust, we can confidently say that the future of the Negril Great Morass is in good hands. Before we wrap up, we'd like to share this clip with you one last time because we really do want to give you a chance to win a prize. Here's the question that we're asking. Which other SDG are we contributing to directly through NEPA Connects? Which other SDG are we contributing to directly through NEPA Connects? So here's another chance for you to win a prize on today, Friday, November 26th. Ready? Take a look.
In September 2015, the United Nations made history when 193 member states unanimously adopted 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, that serve as the centerpiece of its post-2015 development agenda. The goals are: no poverty, end poverty in all its forms everywhere; zero hunger, end hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture; good health and well-being, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages; quality education, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all; gender equality, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls; clean water and sanitation, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all; affordable and clean energy, ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all; decent work and economic growth, promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all; industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. Reduced inequalities. Reduce income inequality within and among countries. Sustainable cities and communities. Make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Responsible consumption and production. Ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Climate action. Take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts by regulating emissions and promoting developments in renewable energy. Life below water. Conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Life on land. Protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. Peace, justice, and strong institutions. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development. Provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Partnerships for the goals. Strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. Learn more about SDGC/A by visiting www.sdgcafrica.org. Stay connected through Twitter @SDGCAfrica and Facebook through our page, the Sustainable Development Goals Center for Africa.
Great. And that message, of course, brought to you by SDG Center for Africa. So would you like to give it a shot? Well, before you do, please click on the link in the chat. That is our evaluation form that we'd love for you to spend a few seconds, just seconds, to complete for us. We'd really appreciate it. It helps us to deliver to you a much better product at the end of the day. So please spend a few seconds and complete that form for us. So 17 SDGs. And today we talked about SDG 15, Life on Land, because our theme was the future of the Negril Great Morass. But there was another one that we also tried to achieve through NEPA Connects. And that is SDG. Let's see if anybody got it. Oh, okay, SDG 4, good quality education. That's true. But how about SDG 17?
Oh, that's what you were going to say.
SDG 17, do you remember SDG 17?
Yes, we were going to say that.
Going to say.
Who remembers SDG 17? Who wants to unmute and tell us what SDG 17 refers to?
Oh, it speaks about partnerships, but I thought we could not answer that one.
Exactly.
For persons in the chat or visitors.
Yeah, it was. It still is. But we've answered already. Definitely partnerships to achieve the goal. And that's what we aim to do through NEPA Connects, because NEPA Connects is our feature where we shed the light on our environmental partners, local, regional, and international partners who are helping us to achieve our mandate of managing and protecting Jamaica's land, wood, air, and water. And today our guests were Maureen Milburn from the IW Eco Project and Keisha Spencer and Davia Simpson from the Negril Environmental Protection Trust. Do you have any final comments before we wrap up, ladies? Maureen?
Sure.
Keisha?
I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for attending, for participating this morning, and a special thanks to our partners in Negril, Nept. Really appreciate all that you're doing with us and working with us through, achieving SDG 15, as Travis said. which looks at biodiversity conservation and sustainable uses of the resources, all the work that you're doing with the stakeholders and the farmers to ensure that persons appreciate and use their resources sustainably. Thank you.
Okay, so we too want to, say thanks for this opportunity to share with you and to share with the wider stakeholders, those who have participated today and those who will see when you basically upload to your YouTube page about the work that we are doing here in Negril. And we always welcome the opportunities to partner with the National Environmental Planning Agency. And we're hoping that, both organizations, we can continue to work and also improve the areas that we work on and improve our working relationship as we seek to address the myriad of environmental issues that are here within the Negril Environmental Protection Area.
Thank you so much, Maureen and Keisha and Davia. Thank you for joining us for NEPA Connects. Please stay tuned for the next session. Have a wonderful Friday. Happy Friday to all of you. And follow us at NEPA Jamaica on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And follow Nept and follow IW Eco Jamaica as well. Have an awesome Friday. Bye-bye.